I'm Edmund from Superposition, and we're building the world's greatest recruiter. And we know how to do that because I used to be a recruiter. Before I learned to code, before I became a product manager, I spent 7 years making early hires at seed stage startups, including engineer number 1 at Brex. Arguably, he might have been number 2 because there was this one guy who never showed up after Burning Man. True story. My co-founder, Lee, is an engineer with the soul of a designer who joined a YC startup during their batch and scaled with them through Series A. And yes, I did use Superposition to recruit Lee. 11 weeks ago, we started building our AI recruiting agent. So far, it has made 2 hires with no human in the loop. Let me show you how we did that. When you're hiring, you want someone who's not just good, but a great fit for your company. But recruiters only send you generic candidates. Today, you're stuck waiting for a recruiter to get lucky and find someone in this intersection. Recruiters lack the context on your company. They can't vet technical candidates, and this results in low-fidelity matches. But there's a more pernicious reason why using a recruitment agency doesn't deliver highly matched candidates. As a recruiter, you're disincentivized from finding a highly specific match for one of your clients. You're better off finding one candidate who's reasonably good and spraying them out to multiple clients in the hopes of making commission. This is a preposterously large market. The US spends $200 billion each year on recruitment agencies. And yet, the average NPS is worse than healthcare. In industry, which, as Andrew just told you, kills 1 million people a year. And recruitment is less popular than that. So, we're building a better recruiter. You chat with our AI voice agent to design your ideal hire, and then it gets to work, reasoning over thousands of profiles from across the internet, composing high-converting messages, and handling scheduling. So you go straight from discussing the requirements to interviews in your calendar. We're selling this to seed-stage startup founders who have the hair-on-fire problem of needing really highly matched talent, but don't have the time to do it themselves. I'm about to show you Superposition in action, and now I'm going to pretend to be Ben, the CEO of our customer, Hotplate. Ben is hiring a founding engineer. As you can see, Ben has good taste in hats, so to get into character, I'm just going to put this on. Sorry, we blew all the budget on the t-shirts. And this is what Ben sees when he logs into Superposition. Now, when Ben did this for real, there would be a longer onboarding where he talks about his values, the culture of Hotplate, and what really important things they're building, because their product is Shopify for home chefs. It lets bakers sell food on the internet. But for the sake of this demo, we're going to just jump in with the technical requirements. So, what technical requirements should we kick off with?
Now we know more about what you're building, let's dive into the requirements for this role. Starting with your technical needs. React and TypeScript are listed as must-have skills. Do you also require backend expertise? Or is front-end specialization with React TypeScript sufficient as a baseline? In other words, do they need to be able to own both API and UI work? Or could someone excel as a UI-focused engineer?
It is front-end leaning. We're using React, but what other front-end frameworks do you think we should look at?
React is a strong choice, especially for speed and flexibility. But since your core stack is end-to-end TypeScript, have you considered whether experience with Next.js, which is React-based but opinionated for full stack and SSR, is valuable? Or do you see room for candidates with strong Vue.js or Svelte backgrounds if they're willing to learn React? Or is React familiarity non-negotiable?
Yeah, that sounds good. Could you add Next as a nice-to-have?
This will just take a sec. Next.js is now on your list as a nice-to-have skill. Now, your listing says extremely comfortable working full stack, but the actual stack details are light. Is backend experience with Node.js or any other backend framework required? Or would you accept strong front-end engineers who can learn the backend on the fly?
Honestly, this looks good. I think we're done with this step. Let's move on.
Now we've defined the requirements. Let's go deep on the traits that matter most for this role. Think about your best performers. What makes them special? What are the characteristics or habits that separate someone who truly thrives on your team from someone who just meets the minimum? What traits do you find most predictive of success here?
Well, since we're building a platform for chefs, we actually really like foodies. Can you try that?
Just a sec. Thank you. Foodie is actually pretty revealing. Here are some measurable proxies our system generated to help you assess this trait in candidates. Food industry projects, culinary side hustle, food community involvement, food content creation. Do these proxies capture what you mean when you say foodie? And would spotting these experiences in a candidate make them more attractive for your team? Or would you adjust any of these to better match your definition?
No, this looks great. Can we see some candidates?
Hold on a sec.
Superposition is now reasoning across candidates and identifying the folks it thinks are a good fit. And I, or Ben, can then click into a profile. It is fetched some relevant GitHub repos, so I can check this candidate Max's technical chops, blog posts, so I can understand a bit more about what he's like as a person. And here we can see, for these food proxies we just defined, this candidate has actually built a food-based startup before. But that's not all. Superposition has trawled the internet and is actually suggesting I check out Max's personal site because his hobbies look pretty relevant. And here we see, oh yeah, he bakes bread as a hobby. That seems like a pretty good fit to Hot Plate for me. And now I can pass the reins over to Superposition, and it's sourcing in the background, composing high-converting messages, reaching out to candidates, and handling the replies. And there's a lot of replies. The messages our agent sends convert at twice the rate of your typical recruiter spam. Probably take the hat off, shouldn't I? Our clients are really happy. You don't actually have to take my word for it. There's at least 2 of them in the room tonight. So if you find yourself talking to Gabe, whoop, Gabe from Trampoline or Vince from Plastic Labs, make sure you are, well, first make sure you ask them if you can invest in their next round. And then once you've done that, ask them what it's like using Superposition to build out their founding teams. And it's not just Vince and Gabe. We have 8 clients. We're increasing the number of interviews we generate by 75% month over month. And last week, for the first time, we hit superhuman levels, booking 11 interviews, which for context, that is like freakish overperformance for a recruiter. If I'd done that, beers would have been on me that Friday. And we haven't even put our foot on the gas yet. 2 weeks ago, Plastic Labs hired an engineer who was entirely sourced by our AI agent. And then last week, we did it again, placing a founding engineer with Trampoline. This resulted in $20,000 of revenue this month so far. We've built a repeatable process to hire engineers using AI, and now we're raising to expand this to other roles. Come talk to me or Lee if you're curious about how we're going to get that done. Thank you.